11 days or 40 years. The choice is yours. So let me give y'all some backstory. The Israelites, who were God's chosen people, they were supposed to go on a journey to the promised land. They were taken from the land of Egypt, where they experienced all types of trials and tribulation. They were broke, busted, and disgusted up in Egypt, okay? But then God said, I'm going to take y'all to a land flowing with milk and honey. The journey's supposed to take y'all 11 days. It took them 40 years to make an 11-day journey. Why, you may ask? Well, put your seatbelt on because I'm getting ready to tell you. But it took them 40 years, not because of the amount of distance between Egypt and Canaan, but it took them 40 years because of the path they chose to take. The mental path they chose to take and the spiritual path they chose to take. Instead of being like, ooh, thank you, Lord, for delivering us out of Egypt. We're so ready to get to the promised land. You promised for us. We getting ready to go ahead and walk on in and get our blessing. They chose to complain. They chose to worry, which reflected their lack of trust in God. They chose to disobey. They chose to keep groaning and mumbling in their sin. That's why it took them that long. And every time I remember the story of the Israelites, it just reminds me that whenever we're in a transition season of where God is taking us out of something and is bringing us into something new, that ultimately it's our decision which is going to dictate how long we stay in that wilderness. It can be a season where we're walking through it, where we're walking through the wilderness, or we're wandering. And the reason why it turns into a wandering is because of disobedience and unbelief in God. So that's why I started off this video by saying 11 or 40 years, because we don't understand how much free will God has given us. That there is seasons that God has intended, where in Ecclesiastes it says there's appointed time and season for everything. However, we can't extend a season. We can't extend it because of our attitude. So just like the Israelites, I want to warn y'all, for some of y'all who are in a transition season, stop complaining and allow God to take Egypt out of you, even though you're no longer in Egypt. Allow him to take the Egypt mentality out of you while you're on your way to Canaan. Because just because you took somebody out of Egypt doesn't mean they still don't have the slave mentality. So it takes time. It takes time for God to do the new work. For God, whose ways are infinite, whose ways we'll never understand. But what God knows is that the wilderness will teach you something that Canaan never could. That in that middle season, that there's something that God is developing inside of you. He's taking you to have a new level of discipline, a new level of obedience, a new level of trust. That way, when you get to that final destination, you have the character to be able to sustain it.